guys, wanted to welcome you to another video. All summer long, we have been digging into money mindset, and I'm so excited to introduce you to Sarah VanHoose. She has a wonderful Instagram account called Journey to Influence, and also a website, journeytoinfluence.com. She is a financial coach. She is a business coach. She has been working with a lot of clients. She's got a great background in regards to money, paying off debt, savings, all of that. And so I thought it would be great to bring her in on an episode. And we're going to talk about money mindset and debt. Tackling those things, the fears around debt. How are we using debt? Even we're going to talk a little bit about our own personal stories of paying off debt, troubles with debt, and things that we have learned. So let's dive in. So thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I would love to hear a little bit more, and just let you share a little bit more of the type of coaching that you're doing, what got you into coaching, etc.
Yeah. It's a long story, but I will give you the abbreviated version. I had been working a long time in a healthcare leadership career for just about 20 years and realized that I needed a little something different. I wanted to spend more time with my kids. I've got 2 daughters. My oldest is 12, my youngest is 9, and really felt called to be more present and available for them. In addition to that, my husband is self-employed, works from home. And I originally just kind of raised my hand and was like, how about I just don't work anymore? And he was like, how about you do something? Yeah. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do? I've been working in healthcare and hospital environments for the last 20 years. I don't know. What does that look like for me? He said, why don't you do that thing that you love with personal finance and leadership, put those things together. Why don't you do some coaching? So I really owe my husband all of the credit for my current career choice. Yeah. But the story behind that story includes we went through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University several years ago, got ourselves out of a whole lot of debt. And I loved the process. I loved the financial freedom that really came with, getting on a budget and doing life more intentionally, doing money more intentionally, and told all of my kind of friends and family about it. And then I had another platform to be able to share bigger, wider, right? To more folks. So love what I'm doing with coaching and just really helping people be more intentional with their time, their talent, and their money.
Yeah. You're still a Dave Ramsey preferred financial coach along those lines, right?
I am a Ramsey coach. So that just means I was trained through Ramsey. So affiliated with him that way.
That is amazing. Sarah and I, she helped kind of teach me along the ways to financial coaching, which was super fun. I joined a coaching group with her and a couple of other financial coaches with Dave Ramsey. So that was fantastic just to learn and grow and things to do, not to do as getting into coaching. So you talked a little bit about your financial story and a little bit of paying off debt. So today we wanted to talk a little bit about that. Maybe you can share a little bit about that and kind of what you learned of, okay, those are things I don't want to do or things to do around debt. I think a lot of people right now are starting to kind of feel that pressure financially with inflation and all of that. And so,
So when I realized that we were challenged, we had just moved into the house that we live in now. My youngest daughter was still crawling. So it's been about 9 years now, 8 years anyway. And we were unpacking. I'm listening to these Financial Peace University CDs. That's how long ago this was, or everything was on CDs. And she's talking about debt, and I had never actually calculated how much total debt we had. I'd never kind of put pen to paper to say like what we had. I knew that we could make all of our payments, but I didn't actually know the total dollar amounts. And when I added all of it up, it was a total of $700,000 in debt. Wow. So, and that came with 3 different mortgages, a couple of cars, a couple of student loans, a couple of credit cards. Like we had a pair of everything. And that dollar amount, once I kind of realized the total weight of what we would have to get out from under, I was like, well, it's no wonder I'm a little bit stressed. So it's no wonder I feel some pressure right here. And
Mental anxiety.
yeah, exactly. I was one of those moms that I loved what I did. I love working in general. I could never really see myself staying at home full time. But I also did never have the real option. You know, it wouldn't have been financially viable for me to stay home with my kids either. So, you know, there was something about that I didn't even have the option. Even if I, you know, didn't even want to take it, I didn't have that option. So understanding what our debt situation was a really an eye opener. So we sold a couple of houses, right? That just broke even. You know, we didn't make any money on it, but we got out from underneath the debt. And then got really creative, you know, when it came to being on a budget to say, okay, like, here's what we're willing to do. Here's what we are not willing to do, but we really want to get rid of all of these payments. So, you know, fast forward a couple of years, able to pay off our debt, able to have a fully funded emergency fund. And that, like, when we got there, I was like, whoa, well, how about that? Like, this is great. Like, this feels good. Everybody should have this feeling, right? We don't have to have the pressure of keeping up with what the neighbors are doing, what your sister is doing, what your mother thinks you should do. Instead, like, just figuring out what was right for us and having more flexibility, ultimately was the plan. And that means that we did have to say no to some things during that time. We didn't say no to all the things, but we did say no to some things in order to kind of make the process go by faster for us.
Congratulations. That is huge. I mean, just making such an adjustment and being, you know, that time of almost sacrificing a little bit and like having to sell some of the homes and things like that, making adjustments. Yeah. I mean, I did the Dave Ramsey class a couple of years ago, and same thing. Was coming out of school and was going into some student loans, unfortunately. And so it was a great timing. And when I was racking up that debt, I was like, it's not fun. But I mean, I think there's such peace, like Dave Ramsey talks a lot about, of that, just that peace versus that like anxiety, those fears around having that almost like this cloud over you, a debt. Yeah. So that's amazing. I'm glad that you've kind of had that journey of change. Is there a few things that you think that, you know, to really focus on if you do have that, or a couple ideas or tips to kind of dig into?
Yeah, I think number one, like, very predictable, is you should make a plan for your money, right? I don't care if you call it a budget, I don't care if you call it a spending plan, but making a plan in advance for how you intend to intentionally spend your next month or your next year's worth of money, I think is a really positive thing to do. You know, sometimes people have a hard time just doing the monthly and need a little bit more vision, you know, in terms of what else is happening in the future. But that would be my number one. And then, you know, I like to ask folks to ask themselves a question, you know, this purchase, will you care about it a year from now or 5 years from now? Like, is it still going to be in your life? Is it still going to be something that you value? It'll start to give you a little sense of different direction for a singular purchase. When you really think about the longevity of that overall.
Yeah, really something that I put into practice the last couple of years, because I am a spender. I am a budget nerd. I'm that budget nerd. I love budgets. I love finances, all that stuff. But let me tell you, I like to spend money. I like to shop. I like nice things. That's where I gravitate towards. And so I started to have to put into practice, is this a need or is this a want? And if it's a need, obviously, you know, we go a little bit more, you know, flexible with those things, but the wants, you have to wait. I think in society right now, everything is so, I can have it right now at Amazon. I can just genie in a bottle with a credit card. I can pop it on the credit card. I can have anything and everything I want. And that is a lot of what gets us into that financial trouble. You know, quick backstory for me personally with debt and finances. I worked in the financial industry, mortgage business for about 14 years, made 6-figure income. Well, the market turned in about 2008, and I just slowly had to liquidate. I lost everything. I had a house of 300,000. I had a Tahoe, a boat. I had probably about $50,000 in credit card debt. And thankfully, by the grace of a lot of great circumstances and people and situations and help, was able to liquidate, was able to work with creditors, was able to sell stuff. I sold the house, all of that, and get myself into a better financial situation. And so I think, yes, it is about, a mindset. It is. I've been reading this book from Rachel Cruz, and what I've been kind of talking about all summer, it's the money mindset. It's choosing, not that instant gratification. I think it's so easy to see something on social media or someone just got something. Oh, I got to have that. And it can get us into a lot of trouble. But yeah, I was reading this book, Rachel Cruz, Love Your Life. Not there. So highly encourage this book. It's a great one to kind of get that mindset back on appreciating what you have, being content with what you have, and not always having to have what other people have. And so, I think maybe a couple of things that Sarah and I, maybe we can chat about is if you are in kind of that difficult situation right now, financially, you have debt, you have student loans, you've got mortgages, maybe you're unemployed, you've lost a job. What are some practical ways now that you can get yourself out of debt? Sarah mentioned, obviously, setting a budget. I think obviously you and I both can say, obviously, before you dig into paying off debt, make sure you have an emergency fund. Let me tell you, Sarah, you can probably say, have you had some emergencies come up this last year or two?
Oh, right. They take different shapes and sizes, right? All the time. Things come up. Life happens. It's always going to happen. So having a little nest egg so that you don't have to reach for your credit card is really helpful.
Vital. The last 2 years, I've had 2 hand surgeries, just had to buy an AC unit, car repairs, medical, you name it, it's happened. But I thank God that I had an emergency fund, because that's what it's there for. And it brings you that peace when those things happen. You're going to your savings account versus dumping it on a credit card, which then makes it more stressful down the road. So before you start paying off a ton of debt, obviously have your emergency fund. That's the key. If you have a lot of debt, I encourage you, work with a financial coach, reach out to Sarah or myself or someone in your local area, do a Dave Ramsey financial peace class, work with your creditors. I actually did that a lot with Wells Fargo. So I was working with, clients that were hit in foreclosure. They were behind on their mortgages. They weren't making their car payments, credit cards, all that stuff. Take a step at a time. I know it's hard. I know it can be overwhelming. It can get scary, that anxiety about just facing debt. But I encourage you guys, just take a step at a time. Reach out to your creditors, reach out to the people that you know or your mortgage companies. You would be surprised what can be done to be able to work with you if you have credit, debt issues, things like that. If you're past due, they want to work with you, obviously. And then if you have an income issue, maybe you have some thoughts or ideas, and we can kind of share about that to get those debts paid off. Do you have any ideas also?
Yeah, I think one thing that I would mention too is that you know what, drop the shame. There's no reason to feel guilty. There's no reason to be shameful about it. I get that you don't want to blast it all over the internet, but seek some help or seek a trusted friend and be like, hey, who do you know? Or I have this challenge. What would you do? Not your best friend's not always the right person to ask, depending on what their situation is. The thing, we don't often know what everybody's situation is. That's a story there. So you might look at your friend, your colleague that seems to have it all together. You don't know what's happening in their bank account. So stop feeling guilty about it. Just reach out and get help. It's a bold move to be able to say, hey, like, I don't know all the things here. I got myself into a little bit of trouble. I'm willing to do something a little bit different and move forward. So I would just say we got to drop the shame. There's too much money shame that happens out there right now. When it comes to income, I think in the employment industry right now, there's a lot of opportunity to up your income if you're willing to do something a little bit different. Again, change can be hard, but you've got to take care of yourself at the end of the day. We carry a lot of loyalty to particular employers, to particular people, right? On teams that we love, teams that we work with. But if you really have an income challenge and it's not covering your basic necessities or your bills, then you're going to have to get more creative. And that's either taking on an additional job, right? And that doesn't work for everybody, right? In their family situation, or changing employers so that you can get a pay increase. Moving to something a little bit more skilled, right? Advancing your career, or sometimes even just simply moving employers in order to take advantage of the market right now that is looking for people to work. So it's not the time to sit behind your comfort zone, right? Your comfort level. If you truly have an income challenge, then it's time to get to work.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of just side hustle stuff too. I mean, there's so many things we all know there's Uber, there's cleaning houses. Like, I sometimes help clean and organize for a friend and make really good side hustle money. I mean, there's so many different ways, to be able to just bring in extra sources of income. If you have a lot of extras in your house, go around. Facebook marketplaces and Craigslist, that's a great way to sell stuff that maybe that you're not using. If you've got multiple cars and you're a single person and you got 2 cars, all right, it's time to maybe limit down to 1, there's a lot of different creative ways to make extra money, but it's also looking at, okay, where is my money going? And that's where the budgeting comes into play. Seeing, are you dropping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on extra subscriptions? All those different things. Are you dropping a lot of money on Amazon? Are you eating out a lot? There's so many ways to save money just on groceries. Sarah and I, we both are posting on our Instagrams about that. YouTube, or for me, my YouTube and blogs. And there's a lot of different ways to begin to manage your debt. Along the lines of student loans. So for me personally, I do have student loans. I went back to school a couple of years ago to finish a degree. So I do have student loans. And if you are in that situation, definitely reach out to those lenders right now. I know a lot of people their student loans are on hold. A lot of people are not paying them. If you can make payments, it is a fantastic time to pay off those student loans. One thing to encourage you guys, if you work for a nonprofit, if you're in teacher, you are a firefighter, you're disabled, if you are a police officer, all those kind of things, there's actually a program out there where you can get some forgiveness with those loans. I'm actually in the midst of putting myself into that because I do work for a hospital and for a nonprofit. So I'm hoping that all plays out. So there is a lot of things that can be done around your student loans. Just reach out for help. Like I said, to your lenders, make a plan for those student loan payments that could be coming due again in September. I think people are like, oh, they might be pushed off, which I don't know. They might, who knows? But at least start thinking and planning ahead for if that does come about, that we have to start paying our student loans again. So you had mentioned, Sarah, a really great blog that you had written about some questions to ask before you use your credit card. Let's chat about that. But real quick, I have a confession. I hadn't had a credit card in years, a long time, actually since the Dave Ramsey class. And I cut them up, closed them out, all that jazz. Well, a couple of months ago, I was like, well, maybe I'll just get a credit card. Started putting all of my monthly balance or my monthly, payments on there, all that. Started using it for gas, food. Well, let me tell you, it's easy to get a balance again. I'm like, oh, I'll just pay it off every month. I'm first to confess. Well, I'm, like I said, I'm a spender, and it has caught me off guard. And so I know a lot of us, you probably know too, it's like, we want those points. So share some encouragement, Sarah, that you have in regards to some questions to ask before using that credit card.
Oh, yes. And I will just share too that, they were slippery for us in the past too, right? Very similarly, we put everything on them thinking that it was the adult thing to do, or the grown-up thing to do, or we're going to get points or whatever it was. And, excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah, I just had a tickle.
It's had a tickle in their throat.
Maybe we edit that. I don't know. We don't have to.
We're real here,
I know, here we are. So I found that what I needed to do personally, what we needed to do was stop using our credit cards while we were getting out of debt, while we figured out really how to be intentional with our money. We did introduce a credit card. We have a single credit card back into our sort of normal flow of finances. But I have, every time we make a purchase, right, I have the money for that purchase, right, sitting there. So I'm taking advantage, quote unquote, of some of those perks, but making sure that it doesn't get, become the boss of me. I did a blog post. I was going to try to pull it up here. It's something like, I don't know, 8 steps. Should you be using rewards credit cards? Like, that's the name of it. And there's 8 questions to ask yourself before using a card. If you're trying, one of the questions is, are you trying to eliminate debt, or do you have an outstanding debt balance? And then I say, if yes, then utilizing a credit card is a slippery slope. If you're trying to get out of debt, right, using your card is probably not going to be the right move for you. And other questions, like, do you use a card for emergency? Do you have fear of missing out, right, on free rewards or mileage points or other perks? We all love a bargain or love a good deal. But if you get too caught up in that, like you might purchase something just for, $100 item for $1.50's worth of points. That doesn't make sense, right? So can't get caught up in the marketing gimmicks, essentially, that are wanting you to charge on your card. So yeah, it was a good one. I was traveling back from vacation, and we hadn't taxied off or whatever. So I had asked my Instagram audience a story as the lady was, telling us about, like, sign up today, during our flight, and you're going to get $50,000 miles or something. And I was like, ooh, this would be interesting. And people were like, oh yeah, let's talk about rewards cards. So it came out of audience chatter.
Yeah. No, just know yourself, like she says, or a couple of, I think she has another book too, Rachel Cruz, but I think that's all about money mindset and knowing yourself. If you are somebody who is, not so much like a spender, overspender, overindulgent, that impulsive kind of personality, I think I have a little bit more of that impulsive personality. I'm a spender. I have a little bit of that, a lot of that ADHD kind of thing. So, I mean, I can be like, bam, I want it, and so I have to catch myself, you guys, and you can probably relate. Put a comment down below. I mean, how are you? What is your money style? Are you a saver? Are you a spender? Do you pay off your credit cards every month? How have you been, paying off debt? I want to hear you guys also. We want to hear from you guys. It helps other people. How are you being creative to paying off debt, managing debt? It helps. We're a community for you guys. We're a community of helping other people, doing life together, those kind of things. For me personally, like I mentioned, I found myself like trying to use the credit card again, and I realized, nope, I can't. I'm just too much of a spender. And so I've actually switched back to just going more the cash method, the debit card method, taking cash to the grocery store. I'm blown away how much less I'm spending every month, because cash is emotional. I mean, it's like, and I'm learning to, if I'm paying cash, and you guys probably can relate, you have to say no, and you have to wait for things. And sometimes that 24 hours, that week, that month, year, you're like, I don't even care about it anymore. I'm so glad I didn't impulsively buy that. And I think also it's an opportunity to just save up. You appreciate it more. Even like for me, I'm one of faith, so I pray and ask for my needs to be met, and even wants. I can say a funny story about a kayak. I wanted a kayak, and a friend that is helping me out with a kayak because I was like, well, I have other things I got to do. So anyways, guys, last question I just want to ask you is books. We all love to read. We love books. We're trying to get off a little bit more social media and being outdoors or whatever, especially for summer. So what books are you reading, Sarah? Do you have any book suggestions, things like that?
Oh my gosh, I'm a book reader. I'm looking over. I am reading like 3 books right now. Intentional Living by John Maxwell.
Okay.
The E-Myth Revisited, which is a small business book. And those are the 2 that are actively like I'm flipping pages with right now.
Awesome. Yeah, and for me, I've got about 3-4 books going. I'm doing the Rachel Cruz, Love Your Life, Not Theirs. I am reading a couple of books from Courtney Carver. She talks a lot about simplicity, stress management. She had an amazing story of paying off debt and how she has just simplified all areas of her life, which also has reduced anxiety and stress. And then I've got another one from Craig Groeschel. It's a little bit about renewing your mind and stuff. So anyways, thank you, Sarah, so much for just joining today and just sharing a little bit of your story, some tips. I hope this was helpful for you guys too. And yeah, do you have anything else there that you want to share? Or?
It was so great just to chat, talk. It's always good to talk money, and normalize the conversation, make it a little bit more real, like let folks know that there is another version, there is another story to be able to tell. Just stick with it. So if they're following you, they're working on it. So keep working on it.
Yes, and don't give up hope. There is hope to be had in regards to your finances. There's peace to be had around finances, and just like we were talking about, just take a step at a time. I think we just got to take just one baby step, one step at a time to kind of conquer your financial situation. So definitely make sure to follow Sarah over at Journey to Influence on her website. She's got a great Instagram. Also, feel free to follow my channel here on YouTube. I also have Instagram. You can look it up by Lisa Hice or Frugal Living Network. And also my website is lisahice.com. And we'll put some links down below in regards to some great books and some suggestions. So thanks for having us, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.